Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you all are having a blessed day. This is not one of my normal subjects, but the reality of the situation is that what I teach is spirituality. And spirituality is inclusive of everything that goes on in society. And I made a post earlier which talked about how you can't really divide religion and state because religion is the philosophy upon which you base your life on. And when you go to vote, you're going to vote for someone who you think has the same morals and values that you have. And of course, we get those morals and values from our religious beliefs, or in my case, spiritual beliefs. Now, in getting straight to the point, I always believe that if you're if you're in a particular situation, then you can speak on that situation with expertise. And since I was married, divorced, so that doesn't make me a marriage counselor or a professional. However, I feel very comfortable talking about relationships because for some reason or another, God has drawn me to Kevin Samuels. My first opinion of Kevin Samuels was that he was hard on women. He was really strong on women, and I think that the reason I felt that was because I was listening to his tone of voice and not listening to what the women were saying. In essence, I had my own opinions about relationships. Now, going back to my relationship, I married my childhood sweetheart. We had been dating off and on for a while. And when I decided I wanted to get married, there were characteristics that she had that I thought would be a perfect wife. And under no circumstance did I feel that we would ever get divorced. But I think that men go into marriages, or I went into my marriages, it wasn't so much for love. It was to raise a family, to have children, to get them through college. And I felt that and I could establish my family with this woman. However, it was more of marriage to me was a business situation. And the business was raising a family and having children that would be responsible members of society. So I guess you can say I love the idea of being married, and I thought this woman would fit in perfectly. Unfortunately, I did not have a strong male role model. In fact, my mother, she married my stepfather. When my mother married my stepfather, she had 5 children. And when a man marries a woman with 5 children, it's because he has some type of weaknesses. Or else he would make, because he had no children at the time. Or else why would he not go out and get a single woman with no children and start his own family? But anyway, he was not the role model that I needed. But eventually, they worked together, and my mother was dominant, and she used his GI Bill with their savings together and purchased a home. And when she purchased a home, it was in a neighborhood where I don't I don't believe not one woman worked. This was in the 70s when she purchased the house. No, this was in the late 60s when she purchased the house. And there was not all of my friends' fathers worked and their mothers were stay-at-home moms. All of them. And this was good. It was good for me because when I would go over their homes, I would see how a father reacts. I would notice the character, the way the way the mothers treated the fathers and the fathers treated the mothers, dinners being cooked and things of this nature. And my ex-wife, she came from a household as such, and I learned a lot watching her father. And the short time I spent in Florida when I was acting up as a teenager with my father, I learned a lot of lessons. And that was a blessing for me. But I want to say this. I was married. We had 2 kids. My wife filed for divorce. I'm not going to go into all these details, but anyway, 3 years. But one thing I wanted, I gave her the house and everything, but it's one thing I wanted was joint custody of my kids, and she could have custodial custody. And as far as what she got for child support, I didn't care because even giving her that child support, I still bought my kids clothes, took care of their Christmas, and things like that. When I noticed that their grades were dropping in school, that's when I applied for custody of my children. The first lawyer told me, no, you won't be able to get custody. The second lawyer, I gave him $1,000 retainer. He didn't show up in court. I got my $1,000 back. I took my divorce papers and I used them for an archetype to write out the papers to get custody of my kids. And I did it on my own. I got custody of my kids. And that was after they'd been with her for 3 years. Cutting to the chase. I mean, I remember one time my mother told me that you are a mother and a father. And I thought about it. I didn't say anything. But after time went by, my mother said one day, a woman could raise a man. And I told her, no, a woman cannot raise a man, and a man cannot raise a woman. And I know this from experience. And in listening to Kevin Samuels, I realized my weaknesses as a husband and a father. And I realized that because I wouldn't say that I was a beta male, but I wasn't an alpha male. Because because I would let my wife sway my decisions. And I think this happens in a lot of relationships, that if a man isn't totally alpha and he lets his wife sway his decisions, when things don't work out as he planned, he's going to be upset with her because he knows that he should have done this and did these things his way, especially if he's going to be the provider. My wife worked, but I was still the main provider. She took care of utilities, house note, and other things like that I took care of. But see, one of the problems I had, one of the things that kind of upset me during the marriage is that when it came time to buy a house, there was a 3-bedroom, a 3-family brick house with a three car garage and an occupiable attic. So I could have, and my plan was to buy that with my GI Bill, live in the downstairs, rent out the 2 upstairs apartments for 2 years, which is what you have to live in a house when you get the GI Bill, and then rent that house out and use that money from the sink and use that money from the rental to pay the mortgage on the single I was going to buy, and it would have covered it. She wanted to move into a 1-family house. So listening to her, I said, okay, this is what you want. This is what I'll do. And so I ended up doing that. And that was, it was a mistake. Because now I got this house, kids are being born. I want to do this, I want to do that. But everything was tight. But it would not have been tight if I would have went through and dominated the situation to where a man should. I mean, inside the home, that's her thing. But when it comes to the majority of things, that's up to the man. But anyway, certain things happen when my kids' grades drop. I got custody of the kids. I dated, looked wanting to get married again, but the idea of getting married and I didn't want to take a chance on getting divorced again. I'd already gave away a house. And one of the things my mother told me when I gave away everything, I talked to my mother, she said, hey, you can give it away. Everything you got now, you can work and get it again. So I worked, I got it again, and I'm doing great. But the reality of the situation, through watching Kevin Samuels, I understand how a man is supposed to be a man, how a man is supposed to be a husband, and how a woman is supposed to be a wife. But the only thing that Kevin Samuels is wrong about is telling black people they should go see therapists. The reality of the situation is you don't need, if you watch Kevin Samuels and then you look honestly at yourself in the mirror, watch Kevin Samuels and look honestly at yourself in the mirror. Don't lie to yourself. If you watch him honestly and listen, you can be your own savior. You can be your own savior. Because even if you go to a therapist, the only person that's going to save you is you. Because because he talked to people who had been going to therapists for 5 years and so. And according to him, 2 years with a therapist should be all you need because he's supposed to cure you. If you've been going to a therapist for over 2 years and you're still going to that therapist and you haven't understood your mistakes, then you're just wasting time. And the reason why I feel comfortable about talking about relationships is because I watched Kevin Samuels and I watched them honestly. And I first started watching, I watched a few things and I formed a messed up opinion. And then as I watched Kevin Samuels and watched it, I understood why women were calling in. And and I learned just in the conversations he was having with women, I learned the mistakes that I made just listening to their side of the story and then looking in the mirror honestly at myself and understanding my mistakes. The one thing I disagree with him about is that married men or high value men exercise their options when they cheat on their women. They shouldn't cheat. They shouldn't. They should, because the time that they're spending out there running around chasing other women, they could get STDs, and they're not giving the amount of quality time necessary to their children. And they should be giving quality time to their wives as well. Just like a woman should give her man praise when he does something right, he should give his wife praise for her doing things right. And that marriage, because Kevin Samuels always talks about the vow, taking a vow when you get married. Well, the vow is just not on the woman, it's on the man too. He owes her for being his wife, and for being that stress reliever when he gets home. She should be that stress reliever. But but I think it's one thing that we really have to understand is that, especially because I'm gonna tell you this, he had Caucasians calling into his show, which is interesting because every time, no matter what black people do, Caucasians always they learn from us. We built this country, they learn from us. And when he talk about men building this, building this, building that, black men built this country, not Caucasians. Black men built this country. But let me not get off the subject. Marriage is a contract between two people. Love grows as you achieve your goals. Because, see, love is about responsibility too. If there is no responsibility, there cannot be any love. There can't be any love. And I watch on a lot of shows where too much emphasis is being put on sex. Way too much emphasis is being put on sex. In fact, perverted emphasis is being put on sex. I mean, because how much time do you spend in bed? I mean, you should get your joy and satisfaction should come from your ultimate goal for getting married. And if your ultimate goal for getting married is sex, you get married for the wrong reason. The ultimate goal of getting married is raising a family. Is raising a family. It is having a legacy and raising children that are responsible members of society. And then looking back in your old age, you and your wife, at what you all have accomplished together. And if raising a family, being financially comfortable, if that's not a blessing to you, then you're selfish. Then you're selfish. And I think one thing that I want to say to women especially, is Caucasian Neanderthals have deceived you. They have deceived you, and they have ruined the black family in deceiving you into thinking that women are queens without kings. Sex is important. Feminism is, and a lot of women realize too late that life is not about feminism, and you can't. And this whole phase thing. I mean, a man can indulge in this because he is not mentally tied to sex. He is not mentally tied to sex. Women are mentally tied to sex. And you have a window in which you can successfully have children with no problem, generally speaking. But I'm not going to keep going on and on because Listen to Kevin Samuel. God sent Kevin Samuels here for us. And when God sends us a blessing, other people can partake of that blessing as well. And that's why you have Caucasians calling in to his show. So I'm not going to hold you any longer, but just Kevin Samuel is a blessing to us. And I remember I watched T.D. Jakes, and he was talking to the young lady who was in Players Club. And he told her, you are too blessed to be stressed. You are too blessed to be stressed. And I looked at this woman, and God blessed this woman to be one of the most beautifulest women in the world. I mean, if this woman could be 90 years old and she would be beautiful. But he told her that, and I think it sunk in. And it reminded me, when I think about all the beautiful black women, even average black women are beautiful. Bodies designed by God. You all are too blessed to be stressed. Find a man and be his wife. And if you have to work and he has to work, then understand the contract. Talk to each other. Make sure, because I think one of my problems was communications. You see, before you get married, make sure that you have the same goals in mind, because it is the achievement of those goals that makes your marriage a success and allows you both to look back jointly at what you've accomplished. Goals are the key to keeping your marriage strong. You gotta have goals. There has to be purpose. Nothing is worthwhile doing if there is no purpose. And if you're getting married for sex and looks, you're getting married for the wrong reasons. Because as you age, sex is not going to be important. And as you age, you're not going to be this beautiful person that you once were. But you see, the problem is that it's caused by the rich. Because the rich live in a world of illusions. They have no, especially if it's inherited wealth, they live in a world of illusions. Because they don't have to work, they don't have to do anything. They have all this time on their mind. And we all know wasted time is the devil's workshop. Wasted time is the devil's workshop. So that's one of the reasons Yahshua said, a rich man has as much chance of getting into heaven as a camel passing through the eye of a needle. And if you focus on the life of a rich person and compare it to yours, there is no comparison, because they don't live in the real world. In the real world, you have to make choices, and your choices matter, because you can't buy your way out of stupidity the way they can. And I've went further than I want to go, but the main key: watch Kevin Samuels. Listen honestly. Listen to him honestly, and then look in the mirror at yourself honestly, and realize the things that you've done wrong and the things that you can improve on, because it's never too late. Life is about a matter of timing. I'm single. Would I like to be? Do I enjoy being single? No, but I deal with it. I'm not distraught. But would I like to have that special someone? Yeah. To say I wouldn't, that would be a fool. But men will admit, when they will admit truth and not carry on this facade. I think that women may be, when they come on this show, I think they're just being emotional. And until they get rid of that, I'm not saying that women shouldn't be emotional, but we all should be truthful to ourselves, because truth is the only thing that can defeat evil. With that, have a great day. God bless you all.